A journey into the underground with Adam X. Sonic Room Podcast. Hi, I'm Adam X, and on today's episode, I'm excited to share an in-depth conversation with one of the first ladies of the French techno and electro scene, Kittin. Our chat takes us back to the 90s as we explore the beginnings of her remarkable career as a DJ and musician all the way to present times. We also had an awesome discussion on her early raver days when she traveled across France to experience the very first waves of raves there. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Looking at your history, and I realized that you were from Grenoble. I didn't realize that. I didn't know where you were from. I didn't know where you were actually born originally, what city. So, and I know Hacker was from there. And so tell me how you guys met and what was your connection with the techno scene back then, and how'd you get into all of this?
So Grenoble is a middle town, French middle town, 300,000, maybe 500,000 with the whole bigger area in the middle of the French Alps. Very weird place, very socialistic, not much to do besides outdoor things like skiing or hiking. And there was a new wave club in the suburbs. There was this big nightclub complex with one small club, new wave. And of course we were going there. The Hacker was going there. And late 80s, they brought some DJs from Spain, and then other French DJs we didn't know, and they told us about rave parties. So the week after, we went to our first rave party together with the Hacker and some other friends, like the same friends we have today. And then we started going to raves, searching for flyers and driving 1, 2, 3 hours all over south of France and listen to Laurent Garnier, to Damon White, Francesco Farfa, Carl Cox, Luke Slater, Richie Houghton, all these guys. So early 90s, and my friends pushed me to DJ. So I bought records. I was skipping school to practice at some friends and open at some friends' parties. So practicing early on big sound systems. And then I was asked to do a track for a compilation. And I called the Hacker. He was the only one I knew who had gear. And Michel had this fantasy of the new wave bands, duets, so he took the chance to have like a singer, even though I wasn't singing at all. And that's how producing with him started. Yeah.
And so were you and Michelle ever a couple? Or no?
Never, and that's why we are still together. Yeah. I think if we would have been together, we would have split at some point and stop making music. So it saved us. Yeah.
But is it hard to have a relationship with someone when you're working with somebody that's the opposite sex? And maybe there's some jealousy involved because you're traveling with this person every weekend, and you're constantly with this person, probably sometimes more than you're with the person that you're dating.
Different times. Back then, no man wanted to be with a woman who is independent, who travels, who's never there, who succeeds in such a field. So I have to say I was pretty wild. Michel can tell. Michel was super shy and afraid of dating, and I was the wild one. And yeah, I had to have affairs with some colleagues and friends on the road because there was no other way. But I don't think I ever wanted to settle down, because I just wanted to be free, not depend on any man. I don't ever think I wanted a family. And I found a family in my friends and also in music. Like, you give so much. it's a different path, you know, and I'm proud of it. Really proud of it, because women had to be mothers for centuries, and it's a big chance that I had to live my life the way I want. Yeah.
What about your record collection when you pass on later in life? I always think mine, because I have no kids. Who am I giving these records to? And I know there's people out there like me. They're gonna be calling me up. Can you put me on your will?
I was thinking about that the other day, and I'm not attached to things. I already sold a lot of my records, by the way, to keep only the ones that I really, really love, and give the opportunity to other people to enjoy these records more than I do, to pass on things like, and I asked Michelle, like, what if I sell my music rights? We are 50-50 in the songwriting and all. And he was like, oh, I cannot imagine this. This is like my legacy. I'm going to pass it on to my nephews and stuff. And I was like, yeah, but what if, like, I want to sell my rights so I can have, I can live comfortably when I'm old. But I don't know how much our songs worth. You know, we are not the Beatles, obviously. So yeah, it would be interesting to know, like, how much worth what we achieved. It's yeah.
It's a pity, because I think the records like Frank Sinatra and these records, had they came out in the 80s, they would have been mega pop hits. And you would have, you know.
Yeah,
music is never really in electronic music. This kind of music never really went into the mainstream direction after that. You know, like from '90s and onwards.
Yeah, but still, like, we managed to totally unexpectedly to write something that became cult for a lot of people. So I don't think I'm gonna sell the rights, you know, but I'm just starting to look back on everything I've done. I'm just starting to try to analyze what happened. I think this comes with age, but yeah, I just start to realize what we did. It's a weird feeling, you know. It's not like you're a banker or you're building things with your hands, or it's not something you can, like, physically can touch or count with numbers, really. Art is like that, and I'm still amazed by the whole thing. You know?
I mean, music marks a time in your life, and when you look back in retrospect and look at, like, when you made a certain track, you remember everything of that moment, what was going on there, and it's pretty amazing, actually, because sometimes I go back and I look at my discography, and I'm like, I can remember a current event while I was in the studio. I might have even named a track after something that was going on that day, like 51 Days in Waco. It was the day that this guy David Koresh killed all these people in Texas in his compound, this cult thing. And I happened to make a track that day, and I said, you know what? I'm going to name the track 51 Days in Waco, because in 20 years I'm going to remember that day that I made this track. You know, and I think music is real special like that.
Yeah.
Walking time, and
it's a marker, right, you know, for images, for spaces. Do you also have this feeling sometimes to listen to a track that you forgot about, that you wrote, and you're like, wow, how come I wrote this? This is great. How did I have this idea?
I do this. I had to compile like an acid comp a few years back, and I went through all my DATs, and there were tracks on there that I really didn't like at the time, and I was like, these are actually really good. Yeah. Why didn't I do something with this? And that led me to think, maybe I should start asking everybody about their tracks that they have and reissue some of this amazing stuff, you know?
You should.
Because I tell, like, Mad Mike from UR, he's a good friend, and I'm like, Mikey, you know, maybe you got some more of these Acid Rain tracks laying around. What else you got on that you never released? There's a lot of us are hungry to hear this stuff, you know? And you got to think how many artists out there probably have DATs full of stuff, people whose music we loved from back in the day, or even recently, that never put this stuff out of it. It just sits on ice. It's forgotten about. And, later down the road when they pass on, probably nobody will ever get to hear it. And maybe it's even better tracks than what they actually released.
Yeah. And that's why Aphex Twin sent all his music to Warp and said, do what the fuck you want with it.
Right. And
it's
if you remember,
really cool.
And when he did that, I mean, I went through all 200 tracks. I pulled 25 amazing tracks that I liked that for me. And I'm sure other people found other things. And that was incredible. That was like the mind-blowing music dump of ever. Right?
Yeah. That's another level.
So back to the early days of the rave scene in France, were you exposed to any of the raves going on like in Belgium or Holland, Germany?
We heard about it because there were magazines. As I said, no internet, no phone, just record stores where we hooked up. And there were buses, like travel agencies organizing buses to go to Zurich, to go to Germany, to Belgium, to these big raves, because in these countries it was legal and they got sponsors. So it was possible, but in France, everything was illegal. As usual, like French authorities are always super late on everything, reluctant to change. And so our scene was very much underground. And I didn't have the money to buy a ticket to go to Energy, this big rave where, like, talking about Aphex Twin was playing there live. I was dreaming to go there, but I didn't have the money.
I played right before him at that.
Wow.
Yeah, I wasn't supposed to play. My brother couldn't make it, and I wound up filling in. And he opened right after me.
Wow.
It was amazing. That lineup
incredible.
Was crazy. Yeah, Energy was something else.
Yeah. Well, I was a kid, and and my parents didn't know I was going to raves. I would come back home wasted on Sunday, like eyes like that, and
Ecstasy was good back then.
Very good. Acid as well was very good. Yeah.
There's a video of speaking of. I played Rave Age in France in Paris. It was like one of the first raves they had there. And there's a video that
Rave
me and my
Age.
brother were on that circulated on the news, and we were pretty moshed up in that one.
Yeah, but I mean, it was. I shouldn't say that, but. I shouldn't say that because I also lost friends because of drugs. I had a boyfriend, he disappeared in a rave party, and we found him back 4 or 5 days ago in a mental hospital 600 kilometers away. Shit. And his mother called me like he doesn't recognize everybody. It did happen, but the majority of the kids that we were going to school, where we were good kids, and we were doing it like consciously and for fun. And that, like, in my circle of friends, there was not that much abuse, and I think it's the majority of kids. So it was not that much evil. And it also opened so many perspectives in a way that I came back home, and every time thinking like everything is possible. This feeling of freedom made me look at life like as endless potential, and I would have never have this hope and energy to live my life without that experience, and it's very important to say the power of music in general, but the power of these gatherings of dancing together, repetitive music. Science keeps proving that we've been doing this since cavemen, So, it it changed my life.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm sitting here 30 years later.
And like when we were doing the raves here, people didn't drink at parties. It was just ecstasy.
Yeah.
Nobody was taking cocaine. Nobody was doing
coke.
all the drugs.
No
It was
cocaine.
just everybody was on ecstasy, or maybe they were taking acid. that was it, and then
smoking weed a bit, but
and so and I even for me in the first time in the early years, like in 1990, when my brother would come back from England, and we were just seeing videos of what was happening, and we saw all the people at these festivals, 20,000 people, not festivals, so illegal raves and aircraft hangars, and just looking at it and seeing how all different walks of life were here, while in New York it was like a very violent background here of people going out and getting into fights in clubs. Oh, you're looking at my girlfriend. And to be honest with you, the music with the ecstasy, if it wasn't for the ecstasy, it might have not have changed. The ecstasy really opened everybody up and made people like non-violent when they went to parties. And then you
still now.
But yeah, so
still now, like you talk to people. Any bouncer around the world who work at other parties or hip-hop parties, and they may not like the music, but it makes their job much easier because people are nice, there's no fight. Yeah, it's a real non-violent world. Yeah,
I really prefer the vibe back then when there was no cocaine around. I think people were more peaceful and more. I feel there's a lot of cocaine makes people a little bit aggressive. It wasn't like that back in the day. I feel sometimes not like in a fighting way, but just there was just more harmony back in the early 90s at the raves.
Definitely. It doesn't trigger the same thing, Ecstasy was created to cure relationship problems, sexual problems, and it's how you say, a dopamine kicker. While cocaine is it cures insecurity, but you need to lose it up, and that's the thing with ecstasy. You love everybody and you're open and you lose control, but people are scared to lose control more and more. It's a big disease nowadays of like control freaks, of your the way you eat, working out, being like doing performance at work in your life, and that's not what's going on in rave parties. You lose your shit, you abandon yourself in the music, and I love that. Really, I love
the for me, when I did it, it was always just going in and just going deep into the music because of the depth perception that your brain calculates the music as from it. Where if you're sober, you don't hear the music that way. There's just different dimensions of sound that you don't hear. It just opens a doorway up.
But you can still feel that when you're sober. Definitely. Right. Because it's this repetitive thing, like this tribal thing in the real sense of the word, that brings you into a trance and alters your perception, opens up your perception. And drugs enhance that feeling, but everybody can feel it naturally. That's what I love about this music, because you can imagine anything you want. On pop music or whatever, there are lyrics, there are this structure that tells you what to feel, what to think. But electronic music is super abstract. So it makes you work. It's a blank page. You can imagine whatever you want. It's endless. I really love it. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say I haven't done anything in decades, but
same for me.
When you do it, and you only need to, in my opinion, I always said, well, if you're going to play at a rave to people that are on this, you should at least do it once so you know what you're dealing with the crowd, and you'll understand where you can take them and what level you could go to with them. I mean, it's a little bit more difficult now because of people. I don't really think a lot of people do ecstasy anymore. Ketamine seems to be the more the choice drug.
Back as well.
Yeah, and then cocaine, and then people drinking. It's a little bit different.
Drugs are everywhere. It's not something that exists in electronic music. We have really to stop that. It's worse. Yeah. Like drugs are literally everywhere. So actually, I think electronic music is still a safe place for for everybody, and we talk a lot about mental health and inclusion and all that. We've been living that since the beginning. Like, there would be no electronic music without the gay community, without people of different races and different origins. So we were really privileged to experience that. We can do better, but still, like, even in my hometown, which is not like New York, not like London or Paris, we had a big gay community. We knew transsexuals. We knew a lot of minority people. I don't like this word, but we had people of different kinds in our parties, in the bars where we were going. So for us, all of this was very normal. We grew up with them. And it's, we talk about this very often with Michelle today, how lucky we were to be educated by these people, just by growing with them in the scene. Yeah.
It was a very special time, especially because it was also before the internet. So all interactions were really interpersonal. You had to go somewhere to meet the people, and no one was calling, Grenoble from New York. Hey, I think it was like $3 a minute back then. You call, and the raves brought everybody together, and you would run into people from all around the world that were traveling, and it's really super exciting. So in France, there was a split in the scene where you had the Spiral Tribe guys wound up there.
And they stayed at my house, for a while.
Were you going, because this is, a lot of people probably don't even know about this, but they call it a tribe core, and there's this faster free party scene. Were you guys involved in that? Were you going to these parties in the scene?
Yeah. We were not like involved musically with them, but we were going to every party they were doing, because when they escaped UK, they were doing an alternative party to a big rave, like the biggest rave organized, that got cancelled by police. So everybody went to the Spiral Tribe alternative party, and we partied for 2 days near an airport, I remember, and they drove south. And one day, I just left home to live with friends, and I was walking through a square in Grenoble down my place, and I saw them, and I was like, it can be. Like, what the fuck are doing the Spiral Tribe in my hometown, So I went to talk to them, and they said, yeah, we are passing by. So we showed them an abandoned military fort in the mountains, and they stayed there for a while, and we saw them how they connected to electricity poles and stuff. It was really crazy, and they did a few parties in this fort. It was really amazing. Then my best friend went out with one of the guys for a while, drove with them to Berlin. Then they went to Prague, and was a big influence. But at the same time, a lot of people wanted to live this life because it was appealing, but we never wanted to follow them. We helped them when they stayed in our area, and I have a lot of their records that you could buy in their trucks, because they were pressing records here and there in different factories, and they were selling them in some stores, but mainly in their trucks. That's how they survived, So it was really, really amazing, and amazing music, amazing fast, trancy techno, like nothing like it. It was brilliant. Yeah,
for those that don't know, Spiral Tribe was a traveling group that did DIY parties across Britain in the early 90s, and they would draw so many people that the British government banned them. They would pull 20,000 people on farms in all different locations, and then they kind of sort of got exiled, right? And
Yeah,
so now, I mean, I don't know how you exile somebody from your own country,
well,
but
it's because of the what's called the criminal justice bill in UK that forbid people to dance
to repetitive beats.
Yeah, and so they had to escape, and some of them were from like decent families. Some were poor, but they bought trucks and they just run away and were living on the road. But very interesting people. I'm still in touch with one of them. He lives in Albania now, and it was a great time.
They had a massive impact in the scene for us. I know that. I mean, they were there until at least into the millennium.
It was legendary. When you would hear they were around, like you would find them, go to the parties. The music was insane. Like, and they were playing live. They had like a whole collective of DJs, including amazing female DJs as well. So, yeah, it was a big influence for us. Very big.
But the thing is the music that like you and Michelle were making, they would never play anything like that at one of their parties, right? Because it was always this, they had like their own real sound at the parties, right?
Well, at that time, I don't think Michelle and I were making music. It was
a little bit earlier.
a bit before, but that's the reason why we did the music we did, because when we had to make our first track together, he was like, okay, what do you want to do? And I'm like, and on this compilation I was talking about earlier, everybody was making techno. And I was like, we should not do techno because everybody's doing it badly. Like we will never be able to make it better than Jeff Mills or the Spiral Tribe or something like this. So we should do something more electro, more like Ox 88, and then we heard Doppler effect in a store. Like the owner had 2 copies of his first EP, and he was like, "You guys, you are the only ones who could enjoy that kind of stuff. No one wants this record." So I remember we put the record on turntables next to each other, and we were like,
I want to make love to a mannequin, right?
Yeah, like we have to sterilize the population. And we already made electro, and we were like, that's exactly what we are trying to do, like our style. But and IF also was doing electro. So we did electro with lyrics, because we could never do better techno than Jeff Mills or yourself, or, you know.
I mean,
so
you're pretty...
we took another way. But deep inside, we are techno people. We will always be techno people. I will always be a techno DJ, no matter what people think, Electroclash, blah, blah, blah. I'm still a techno DJ. Will forever be a techno DJ, and
I can vouch for that. I know you've always.
And you can be a techno DJ and write songs.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't mean that you can do one thing or another. Like look at Björk. She DJs techno things, and she's doing the most craziest music. So
now your first record with Michelle, which is this your first record on you that you've ever did, or you have other music that was out before that I don't know about?
So the first track was this track for this local compilation for the agency I was in, as a promotional compilation. And then I was playing a lot as a DJ, and I played in Marseille with DJ Hell. And I knew his stuff on Disko B, his real hard techno stuff that I loved. And he was there with David Carretta, who was a friend already. And so we played, and David is like, Hell is coming to my house for a week for vacation. Do you want to come over? And it's a time where I stopped my studies, and I didn't know if I wanted to go back to school or really do DJing 100%, which was risky because, for me, it was not a job to be a DJ. And so I had my car with all my records and my clothes, and I was spending the summer driving here and there to the parties where I was playing. So I was free, and I went to David's house, and Hal was like, I'm starting my label. Okay. It's called International DJ Gigolo. I was like, that's a lame name. Like, what the fuck is that?
Like,
and he's like, no, because, we are like whores. We play and we get paid. And I'm like, whatever. And he's like, do you make music? I'm like, yeah, I play around. Like, I had tapes of jams that I did at some friend's studio, and I had that track with Michel. So I played him that track, Electro track, and he was like, that's great. I would really love to have more music. So the week passed. I'm driving back to Grenoble. I call Michel and I'm like, I just made DJ L. He's starting a label. He wants some music. So the next day, we go to Kiko's record store, and he has a bigger studio than Michel in the mezzanine. So we go in the mezzanine, and Michel does Frank Sinatra, like the music, in like 1 hour, while Kiko was selling records downstairs. And I write the crazy lyrics that everybody knows at my grandparents in 10 minutes. And I was like, I don't know, I was full of probably anger and arrogance as well. But I was like, if Hell likes this track with that kind of lyrics, we can do more tracks. It was like really like a big bet on our future, but probably fear as well. Like let's be punk, the fear of succeeding, let's just do something crazy. And so I recorded the lyrics, and Michel was like, are you sure about this? I'm like, no. And then we did 2 more tracks just to send a tape with not just one track. I sent it by mail. No news. And I'm like, yeah, for sure he didn't like it. And then I got a call from him, and he said, I'm playing this all around Germany. I'm like, how? We sent you a tape. He's like, yeah, I did a dub plate. I actually did 2. So a dub plate is you have to explain.
Yeah, the dub plate is an acetate. It doesn't play more than probably 100 times good. And they used to make the dub plate for DJs to test out tracks before there was digital DJing. So you could make the dub plate. So if you made a track in the studio and you wanted to test it out before you sent it to a label, see if the sound quality is good, you would make the dub plate. I forget how much it used to cost, like $100 or something.
It's a temporary and very soft vinyl, but it also worked as the mattress for the final vinyl pressing, right?
Yes.
So he was playing this damn dub plate in Berlin everywhere, and he's like, it's a fucking hit. Imagine, we are 2 guys from Grenoble, not even center, like suburbs, and we hear that our stupid joke is played in Berlin. Berlin for us is like history books, World War II. We had all this crazy image of Berlin, and we just couldn't process that information. And then he brought us to Munich. Michel has never taken a plane before. So he flew for the first time in his life to Munich. We played, and Hell was like, would you would you play live? And Michel said, yeah. I'm like, are you crazy? I can't sing. Like, I don't want to be on stage, whatever. And Michel said, no, we have to do it. You'll figure out. That's how we started. So we did more tracks, and he released the first EP. Then we did a second EP, and then the album in 2001. But nobody believed in the music we did. Only our friends, because they knew the kind of humor we have. But all the other big French DJs, besides Laurent, once again, most of the bigger DJs, they were like, that's shit music.
I mean,
it's
I
not
have to admit, I was
techno.
probably the same when it came out in the beginning.
What
Because
the
I mean,
fuck is
it came out in
this?
'97, so there was, the
Yeah.
scene wasn't there yet for
Yeah,
this,
I
right?
know.
mean, like you said, Doppler effect. But you know, we were Detroit
It's a
centric,
niche.
so they got a free pass to do it for Gerald's Drexy,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
With James Stinson, right? So, and we love the Drexy stuff. So we were like, oh, this is cool, this is interesting. Or
Yeah.
they did the Electroids album on Warp, which was also Japanese electro,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
more weirder.
ARPANET and
But there
all
was
that.
not really a lot of other music like that. And I think when
No.
you guys did that, we were like, what is this?
No,
but it
but
wasn't just you. Was it, probably Zombie Nation? Because that also came out a little bit after, right?
A bit after, but same time, and then later Tiga. But you have to imagine that techno was born against rock and stage live music, and then new wave was the first music where synthesizers were used. And now, after techno, where it's dark room, repetitive music, then you have a bunch of guys coming back with lyrics, coming back with synths, coming back with the ersatz of rock into techno. It's like, no, we don't want that. You know what I mean? But for us, it was a way to also a little bit take the piece on techno that became very snobbish,
I agree. It was
and so we were like, yeah, you hate rock and you turn your back on your new wave influences. We are gonna put this back into your face. And Michel probably assumed with me his influences, while solo he was making hardcore, you remember? So suddenly he could assume, because I was on his side, he could assume his new wave influence. But it took time for people to process that and accept that this could coexist. And in America, it worked very well because the rock people who didn't jump on the techno train or electronic music train found themselves into Electroclash. And that's why the word Electroclash was invented here. And you still have in America Electroclash parties, very much emo, with people stuck in the 80s. But we were techno people bringing lyrics into the game, so it's a different thing.
It was an interesting time period, to say the least. But I got into it a bit after, because I think, like what you were saying, techno got snobby. Everybody was just doing this loop techno, and there was so much saturation of these records. Like everybody was just making drum tracks to DJ tools. And so I got bored, and I was like looking for other styles of music to play, and going back into the 80s myself. And then all this great music that you guys were all making at this time I was also identifying with it. And I also got into industrial and EBM, because that was a gateway, because I didn't know this music from prior to that either.
Yeah.
And I think in around like 2000, 2001 period, before 9/11, there was a booming scene for this Electroclash thing.
Yeah.
You guys' record was huge in the clubs here, and the parties. I mean, there wasn't really a lot of big clubs at this point, but a lot of the underground parties. And really, what Hell was doing with Gigolo is an amazing feat, because if you look at all the records from that era, how many hit records? The Fisher Spooner, Emerge, the Vitalik Pony, you guys with the Zombie Nation, which is played in football stadiums and baseball stadiums still to this day.
Yeah.
I mean, this is insane.
Insane.
It was just a hit. It was a hit machine. There's not many labels like that have ever existed in the techno realm, you know.
And at the time when we were caught into this madness, like we were all from small towns. Like even like Terence Fixmer was from Lille, Vitalik Dijon, so French guys that nobody wanted their music, and hell believed in them. And we were like this bunch of provincial people together traveling into these crazy cities and crazy parties, and we were like, we didn't understand what was going on. It was a very fast life, and yeah, that's why, like, I told you earlier, I'm still processing what happened. Yeah.
And so you stayed in Grenoble, but then you moved to Berlin, right? Am I correct that you?
Yeah, I moved at this time, I was living in Geneva.
That's right.
For 5 years.
I was thinking that. I was like, I thought you lived in Geneva. I actually originally thought you were from Geneva.
Yeah, because I lived 5 years there. I was close to the record store, legendary record store there, Mental Groove, who was also a label.
Are they still existing?
No, they closed down a long time ago. The label still exists, but they were doing amazing parties in squats. So I was working at the bar, picking up the DJs, working at the store. In the meantime, playing some gigs in France and starting to release music with Michel. And Michel would take the train to Geneva, and we would fly together to gigs from there. And then because I didn't have Swiss papers, I had to move out, like when I started to be more professional. And I was still not earning a lot of money, but I thought I'm going to Berlin because I had friends there, because it was cheap. It was in the European Union, so I didn't need papers. And I just moved there. I played for free for some guys, and they did my moving.
What year did you move there? 98?
2001 till 2006. And there in Berlin, I professionalized my thing. I got a manager who was my first booker at Gigolo. I started to work seriously, let's say, work a lot.
I lived in the apartment of your booker.
Yeah, it's true, Susanna.
Susanna.
Yeah, incredible.
I lived in their apartment for like 2-3 years.
Oh my God.
I lived with Abe the
Yeah, sure.
And that's why we split it together.
Oh yeah.
Jean Selway had moved back, so
that
was the other connection from back then.
Funny.
But by the time I moved, you already left. You were gone by the time I came in 2007.
I loved my years in Berlin. These were amazing years because everybody was hanging around together. Like you would go to Cookies on Tuesday, which was in an old bank, and you would see Pete Substance from Hardwax, and the B-Pitch guys, or Ellen, or Zip from Perlin. Everybody from different styles of music were hanging out. Now it's much more separated. Then the minimal music arrived, and the scene really splitted into different families. But before, everybody was going out together, and was really nice. I really loved it.
I missed that era in Berlin. I got there in the peak of the minimal period in 2007. There was no Electroclash or Electro, or even there was no even hard techno going on there, like parties. It was really just minimal.
Yeah.
Which some of it was good. I can't say I didn't like all of it, but I never found it to be like primetime music. It always seemed like after hours music that you want to hear. Coming,
It was big at Panorama Bar, but listening to minimal music for 3 days at Panorama Bar Yeah, I couldn't do it.
About 25.
Yeah, but when I was playing at Panorama Bar at that time, I would really play like a lot of songs and a lot of lyrics in opposition to the minimalism, you know. So, but I loved that era. I really loved it. Everybody was very close together and big exchange and very inspiring and very kind scene, you know, very, very friendly.
The Electroclash scene didn't really last long here. I think in New York, it probably lasted 2-3 years maximum. What about in Berlin? I don't even know. Was it like a 5-year run, you would say? That was where it was
Electroclash?
good? Yeah.
Well, the thing is, as I told you earlier, Electroclash in Europe wasn't labeled Electroclash. It's like the same story than with punk. You know, in Europe, it wasn't. It was electro. It wasn't. Yeah, like here. Here, this music was very much linked with fashion, with a certain lifestyle, certain parties where people dress up and are all extravagant, you know. But in Europe, not at all. In Europe, these tracks were played everywhere in regular clubs. So it was not a fashion thing in Europe, Electroclash. It wasn't even called like that.
Even in Berlin, it wasn't? I thought it was in Berlin a little bit.
No, because the first times we played, for instance, the first gig ever we had was Club Discount, which is closed now. There was a big flag of this DJ Tanit. It was like a skull. It was his flag. And it was big like that, and we played in front of the whole Berlin underground, you know. There was no fashion at all connected to our music. It started when people from the fashion industry picked these tracks and played them in fashion shows, and like on runways for Chanel, Gaultier. And then all the people from the fashion world started to jump on these records, because it was talking about them as well. But we were criticizing it. We were criticizing people with money who think they know how to party, while we were raving in the woods. And suddenly, the people we are having fun about, they are listening to it. It's the same like when, you know, Kurt Cobain was tragically complaining that his music ends up in the wrong hands, you know. So it's just really funny, you know, that people we were having fun about like started to take it as an anthem in a way. So that was very ironic. And that's where we decided to step out. That's where we decided to stop touring, stop playing live, and go back to DJing techno in dark rooms. We didn't want to be bought by the fame and glamour. And it probably made us even more cult. And still to that day, you know, I always keep my distances with fashion and always make sure I go back to dark rooms. I will never sell my soul, never.
So you like it when the venue's pitch dark with like one light. It's good.
Yeah, I like when people forget that I'm here, you know, which is it's weird to say that, like, but it's true. It's true. I never wanted to be exposed. I like to write lyrics and write songs, but I that's all I want. Yeah.
So being one of the first women of techno in France, it might even be the first, right? I'm not sure.
I wasn't the first, but Yeah.
But what was it
Continue.
like, playing in the early days? Were you dealing with like a lot of chauvinistic stuff from men at this time, or French culture is usually very into the women, and it's not like Germans, which are a little bit more stand backish, or how was it? How was it with that?
To be honest with you, I I had a lot of amazing male friends around who encouraged me, protected me a lot. So I never thought that the scene was unfair to women. It's only when I started to play outside my area and confronted to DJs who didn't know me or started to see me as a menace, as a threat to their own power, that things I started to see things differently, and where yes, I heard like crazy things about me in front of my face, crazy behavior. Michel can testify, but it was another time. It was a time where you had to swallow it, if I can say so, and you had to work, focus on work, and not listen to what people say. Have a good sense of humor and convince your opponents that you were on their side, that you were their buddy. And I did that, and it worked very well. So it was not a time where a woman would speak out. The first woman who started to raise a consciousness about that was Electric Indigo, techno legend far before me. Like, she was a real inspiration and still is. And she started this collective called Female Pressure, which was already very brave at the time to give it that name. And nobody took her seriously about that because it was uncomfortable. And now I realize that I should have been more involved in her thing. And at the time, I also didn't want to talk about it because I was like, I prefer to focus on my work and and change things from inside rather than speaking out like that. And now we are in a time where it's good to speak out. It's even mandatory to speak out. And I'm not used to it. I have to say, I'm not used to it. So I think it's good that the young generation is taking over with their own skills. I didn't have that skill. My skill was to earn respect by being stronger than what I heard. Yeah, but they
Yeah, if
were.
you had to be tough. I mean,
But
right?
they were.
Much, yeah.
I lived things that for sure are not acceptable today. Things that I really do remember about big names that I will never like. And yeah, their behavior is not acceptable today for sure. So yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. You see, like, all the best women in techno, Indigo, yourself, Mystige X, never use their looks to present the music, and now you see a lot of this on Instagram. It's just flooded with, I have to look like a model when I'm playing, and
Yeah,
it
but
sends a wrong image, I think,
it's
to the younger generation of people that want to come and DJ that or make music, that they have to look a certain way to play, and it's not. It should not be about the way somebody looks.
theoretically you're right. I agree too. But you have to understand that culturally, that's what was expected from women for a very long time. In a lot of places in the world, it's still the only way to do something out of your life, to elevate yourself as a woman. even in like developed country, beauty and sexualization of women is still a way to elevate in society, the same as sport for men. And so it's changing, but it takes time. It takes time for women to learn to be secure enough not to use their body as a shortcut to success. It's a whole education you have to do from a very young age to women and to men, because male gaze is not a fantasy, it's real.
Do you think that this has happened more because the music scene itself has become more corporatized? Back in the underground days, it seemed like promoters just spoke to you if you were a female based on talent. Nobody was like, "Oh, we have to get her because she's super hot."
No,
looking.
but I still got booked back then sometimes because I was a woman. I have to admit it. It was cool to have one woman on the lineup. As a result, promoters would put Miss in front of my name because my name was Kittin, and suddenly my name became Miss Kittin, and I could never get rid of it. That's why when I realized after the Me Too era that I wanted my name back, because I remembered that the Miss was not mine. Wow, it's just like a small example of how you go with it without thinking. You're like, does it really make a difference? But Isis, who is still DJing, amazing Dutch house DJ, they would put Miss in front of her name. Like Monica was also a big house DJ, Miss Monica. If you look at the flyers back then, all the girls, they put Miss in front, including myself. So...
I mean, they even in Germany use the word DJ, and I always thought that was weird because I didn't know that DJ. I thought that a DJ is it's feminine and masculine. That is one or the other, right?
But I think like nowadays, it's really important to, not only in music but also in everyday life, to teach little girls and little boys to respect people not for the way they look. It's important to tell girls that they are smart, they are beautiful, and they are valuable no matter how they look. Still, like, I was thinking about this flying to the US, like making my suitcase for traveling. Like, if I was a man, I would pack like underwear, like boxer, whatever, socks, and that's all, t-shirts and jeans. When you're a woman, you have to double underwear. You have to take clothes for day and for shows, because you can't just show up in jeans and t-shirts. You have to have your makeup. You have to have things for your hair. I don't do manicure anymore, but just so to explain like what's the society request from a woman and the time it takes, to get ready.
I dated a few DJ women.
So it's a
we get out of here. Can you not bring all this shit?
No, but it's a different game. So if we could just be a little more free and not to have all these things to do, and that's why I'm so happy in my countryside, because I don't wear makeup and I don't give a shit, and I love that. But yeah, I think for women out there, it's not that easy to give up on your sexuality, because for many of them, they think that if they don't look pretty, if they don't show their attributes, they will never make it. It's society that sends that signal still. Like, if you walk in the streets of New York, how many girls do you see with curly hair, all the nail salons, it's still because it's requested for women to be pretty and to take care of themselves. So it's a bit unfair to blame these girls in the techno scene for being very sexual. I think it's just still a heavy burden in society. Finish on this topic.
Yeah, I just see it more in the recent years since like the pandemic. It wasn't really so much before, but I guess it is what it is, and people,
whatever it takes.
People are just trying to do whatever they can do to get out there.
Exactly.
And it's very saturated too. So
and it's a very fast path to take to use your body as a plus to succeed. The problem is, well, for me, is that you attract a crowd that comes to not for your music, well, for your music, but also to lurk, to I wouldn't like to have that kind of crowd of men like having this look like I'd be glad to fuck you. I had that a lot. That's why I wore a nurse outfit as a big fuck off. It's so easy to manipulate you, in a punk way. But I'm 50 years old. Who knows what I would have done at 25 today? If I had the perfect body, would I show it? I don't know. I really don't know. But I think we have to, think twice about these judgments, because the cause is much deeper in society than just girls trying to look hot for success. You know what I mean? Yeah. As a woman, I have to say that.
So here we are in 2025, and you're still playing out. And what is your current and favorite style of music to play when you're playing out? Are you mixing it up with different styles, or staying techno, or playing electro?
I think it's my DNA to play always different things. Being educated by Laurent Garnier, who is the master of playing all kinds of things. But lately, I'm quite stimulated by a whole bunch of young producers who do techno, very good techno, who mix techno with breakbeat, with ghetto, with rave pianos, with electro, with also bleeps, there are a lot of young producers who can digest all these influences that they didn't know when they were not born, when the roots of these tracks came out. And it's super interesting to see how they pump this up.
Yeah, I know there's definitely some artists that can take this old school sound from the 90s and modernize it. And they do it as good as the old stuff, but with modern production. So it sounds
in
fresh
your
and
face,
clean and like tight,
Yeah.
And I'm always like, how can you do that if you didn't live that period? Like, it's got to be kind of, it was kind of a time period of what was going around that I thought people made that, but some of these newer younger artists are actually really good at it. There's like one artist I like from England a lot, Dowell, Dawl. He does this breakbeat stuff, amazing. I'm like, wow.
Yeah. So it's a lot of digging because, of course, there are a lot of music coming out all the time. So it makes your selector job harder. You have to spend a lot of time listening to music. I don't buy a lot of music, but when I start listening to some tracks or promos, I instantly know. I project myself. I know exactly how I'm going to play this track with what, and I always build my sets with contrast. Let's say if I drop a retarded, happy guilty pleasure track, it will always be in the middle of two really dark tracks, you know? I always love to create the surprise as well for myself, looking for the most impossible mix. Yeah, that's why I'm still excited about playing.
Yeah, I mean, I love playing out, except my hearing is just getting worse and worse.
Really?
Yeah, it's bad.
Oh,
So yeah, sometimes I'm like today because I played last night and I'm like, poof.
what did you play?
What's that?
What did you play last night, for
What did I
example?
play? I make a lot of edits of old school tracks from the 90s and put bigger kicks behind them and then mix it with modern techno. I played a
Cool.
lot of acid last night. I've been really on the acid thing for a while again. And then just, modern techno as well. So I'm mixing a bit of old school stuff, but a lot of people don't know it's old because I reprocess it in Ableton and put just make it more full sounding. It's hard to play old records if they don't have the bass and the low end. It just sounds flat dynamically. But yeah, I find a lot of music. I'm listening to music online all the time. But the thing with me is I find a lot of music I like, but not a lot of music I would play out at the peak hour. And so I'm always I'm digging, and this is such a process to find music, and it's just so saturated. Thousands of releases out a month. It's like 400 new records out a month in techno.
Yeah.
And that's vinyl. Then there's all the digital. And it's hard, because you get, you don't even know how to discover new names because it's just so many new names. You're trying to dig in. So you have friends that sometimes are like, oh, you should check that out or check that out and try to find your way through it all. It's it's very time consuming and it's never ending. You think you're ahead and you're not. They're like a week later, you're like, wow, I just fell behind and it's the last 500 records that just came out.
I actually go and listen to new music when I need it. Like when I'm done, because I need to change my music very often. But let's say I can live 2-3 months with the same bunch of new stuff that I have. And once I've played them inside out in many different ways, many different situations, and I'm like, I need some more input, then I go, I spend one day, and I give myself a limited time as well. I say, okay, from 2 to 6, 4 hours, you have to find tracks that you're excited about. If after 6, I haven't found anything, I shut down the computer to keep my ears fresh and not to sit because I could sit for the whole night, I have no limits. It's obsessive people do that, and I learned that in therapy, guys. how to because you're always close to a nervous breakdown when you have a brain like that constantly works, analyze, wants to know everything about everything. We are.
I think
music is a big club of people like us. It's normality to be like that in the music business, but to the point where you collapse because it's like driving a car with engine full on. The engine breaks. So my engine broke several times, and I had to learn to drive my car, to drive my fast car, my brain. And so I have techniques where I can handle tasks like that by putting limits, and I play better, and it works better for me.
I'm very OCD when it comes to listening to music, and I never could get ahead, and it drives me crazy.
Yeah,
I always want to know everything that's out, and then I'm also buying a lot of old records. That's stuff that I might have passed on, so I'm trying to keep up on 2 different eras of stuff. Right? Yeah. It's a never-ending mission, and I probably won't be at peace with myself till I'm dead with that.
Everybody's different, but I don't want. I gave so much time of my life for music. I really need my life to be more than music, and I made a point to put limits to that area of my life. Otherwise, I it doesn't work for me. I go crazy.
So, Caroline, thank you for joining in.
Thank
And
you.
It was great to see you and catch up with you. And yeah,
Thanks
we'll
so
do
much.
we'll do some off mic conversation probably.
You have to cut some parts because it was very long.